Okay, so we have already taken a look at arithmetic and assignment operators. Now we are going to be taking a look at comparison operators. Now, comparison operator is an operator that compares two values to each other and which derives a boolean, which is either true or false value. So we have several comparison operators. We have the equal operator, we have the not equal operator, we have the greater than or equal to, the lesser than, or the lesser than equal to operator. Now let's take a look and dive into these operators in greater detail. So let's first look at the equal operator. Now what this operator does is it compares if two values are the same. So we are going to go create a variable. Actually, we're going to create two variables. So we're going to do my variable 1. We're going to create another variable, call it my variable 2. And we're just going to assign it two values, 1 and 2. And this is one way to create multiple variables at once. We just create one variable and then we use a comma and then we can create another variable and then we use the assignment operator, which we have already looked at, and then we will just pass in multiple values. So this value corresponds with this variable and this value corresponds with this variable. So we have our variables right here. Now we can go use the equal operator to check if these variables are the same. So if they're equal to one another. So we can print my var1 double equals. So now we're checking to see if the variables are the same. And there we go. So now if we run and save this, what we should get is false. And because every comparison operator derives a boolean, so it's either going to be true or false, it's never going to be a different value. So we're either going to get true or false printed in our terminal. Let's run this and we get false. And that's because 1 is not the same as 2. Now if we did 2 and 2, then it will be true. And this also works with strings. So if we did string and if we did strings, this would be false because string is not the same as strings. So it's false. Now if we did string with a capital S and if we did string just all in lowercase, it still would be false because string capital is not the same as string all in lowercase. So that is the equal operator. Now let's take a look at the not equal operator. And this is the exact opposite of the equal operator. So instead of doing my variable equals my variable 2, instead we're going to do my variable 1 does not equal my variable 2. So just by looking at this, what do you think the result should be? Will it print true or false? And if you guess true, that would be correct. And that is because string does not equal this type of string. So that means it's true because my variable 1 does not equal my variable 2. So it's printing true because it does not equal. Now if they were the exact same, then we would have false. And that is because these are the exact same, but we're checking if they are not the exact same. So this is how you use the equal and not equal. Of course, you can also use this as numbers as well. So you can do 4 and 3 or 4 and 2. And this would also print true because 4 does not equal 2, so that's true. Or if we made them the same, then it would be false because 4 does not equal 4, which is false because 4 does equal 4. They are the same. Now we're going to get into a new type, which is this greater than or greater than an equal operator. Now what these two operators do is they compare two integers, or numbers I should say, and what these two do is they compare to see if one number, the first number, is greater than the second number. So just like how you did in algebra or a mathematics class, this is kind of the same as in Python. So we have our two variables right here, but let's make this 5. Instead of doing not equals, we're just going to do greater in this case. So right now we're checking if my variable 1 is greater than my variable 2, which variable 1 is 4 right here, and variable 2 is 5. So we're saying if 4 is greater than 5, then print true. Otherwise, print false. So that means the answer should be false. And that's exactly what we get. So let's clear this actually and run this again so you can see false. So that's what we have right here. Now if we make my variable 1 be 5, now we're comparing if variable 1 is greater than variable 2. And even though these are the same value, variable 1 is still not greater than variable 2. So we should get false again. And that's exactly what we get. So variable 1 will only be printed true if the first variable is greater than the second variable. And now let's take a look at the greater than or equal sign. And what this is useful for is if we're checking if a variable or our first value is greater than or equal to our second value. So in the case of 5 and 5 right here, if our variable is greater than or if it's equal to our second value right here, which in this case it is 5 is equal to 5, then print true. So if we run this, we get true, and that's exactly what we want. Now the lesser than symbol is the exact opposite of the greater than, which we're just going to quickly look at real quick. So now we're saying if variable 1 is smaller than variable 2, then print true, otherwise print false. And since variable 1 is not smaller than variable 2, then it's going to print false. And that's exactly what we get here. But if variable 1 is smaller than variable 2, then we are going to get true. And if they're the exact same, then we're still going to get false. And now we can also do the equals as well, so the lesser and equals. And what this is going to do is it's going to compare if our first value is lesser than or equal to our second value. So in this case, if we brought both 2 to 2, so now we have two 2's right here, and this is equal to our second value. So if we run this, we get true. But anyhow, if it's bigger, then it's also going to be true because, well, variable 1 is smaller than variable 2. And if it's smaller, so if variable 1 is greater than variable 2, we are going to get false. Now, what is the point of comparison operators? Well, comparison operators are really useful when you are using if and else statements. So for example, let's just create a quick if and else. Of course, I'm going to dive deeper into this in a different lesson, but I just want to show you what we can do with comparison operators. So let's say, for example, we have 5 plus 5, right, which will equal 10, and we're comparing it to see if it equals 10. So if it does, then we are going to print 10 right here. And what this means is if 5 plus 5 equals 10, then we're going to print 10. Else print not 10. So this is practically the power of comparison operators. So now if I run this, we get 10. Now let's say that I did 5 plus 4. Well, that should equal 9. So we should have 9 equals 10. And no, 9 does not equal 10. So we're going to go into this else block, which, like I said, I'm going to explain this in greater detail in a different lesson. But for this lesson, all you need to know is how these operators work. So it's going to go into this else block and it's going to print not 10. So if we run and save this, we get not 10 right here. And we can also use, instead of using the equal symbol, we can also use the not equal symbol, which will print 10 because 5 plus 4 does not equal 10. Save, run, we get 10. And we can also use it for the greater than, equal, lesser than, or lesser than an equal symbol. But that is the fundamentals and basics of comparison operators. They are really useful when you are programming in Python because they create the logic of your entire program to begin with. So I suggest that you master them, play around with them. Also, you could copy this if and else statement right here and just test around and see what you can do with this. But that's it, and I'll see you in my next lesson.